Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, there's nowhere to hide from the digital transformation of everything at the moment. And I'm especially interested in how every industry is being completely transformed and how consumers' expectation levels are forcing businesses to create new roads forward. Regular listeners will know I recently spoke with Real Madrid about how they have responded to this digital transformation and how they became the first sporting brand to reach 100 million fans on Facebook. But today I wanted to see how tech and digital is revolutionising another sport, motorsport to be exact. So I invited the Motorsport Network CEO, Colin Smith, onto the show today. And for those that don't know, the Motorsport Network is the world's biggest motorsport and automotive media network, featuring major titles including motorsport.com, autosport.com and motor1.com. Essentially, motorsport is the source for all racing content, whether that be F1, IndyCar, NASCAR, MotoGP, endurance, touring, rally, and so much more. So it's time for me to beam your ears all the way to Miami so we can speak with Motorsport Network CEO Colin Smith, so we can find out about how tech and digital is revolutionising motorsport. So a big warm welcome to the show, Colin. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Colin Smith. I'm the CEO of Motorsport Network. I have been in this current role for 2.5 months, so still very much getting my feet wet across all of our different brands and properties. But I came to Motorsport Network from NASCAR here in the States, where I spent the last 5 years running the digital business for the racing series there.
Now, what's captured both my attention and imagination was learning how you conducted a Formula One global fan survey in 15 different languages and essentially receiving fan feedback from 194 countries. I mean, can you tell me about that global survey and the reasons behind it and also what it revealed?
Yeah, sure. So to understand the global fan survey, I think it makes sense to kind of take a step back and look at what Motorsport Network essentially tries to accomplish on a daily basis. And what we do is we have a global news desk with really global touch points from a motorsports perspective, with boots on the ground in a variety of different countries, over 80 countries at the end of the day. And those editors, those global editors, if you will, keep this news desk up and running 24/7. So at any given point in time, through the localized groups that we have across the country covering motorsports, we can tap into that global news desk. And again, it's done in local languages. It's not just translation. And that's what powers Motorsport Network really at its core, is that global news desk in the interaction with the fans, who are all, as you can imagine, very passionate about the sport itself. So the interactions that we have with the fans and the audience that we've created through that Motorsport Network platform really allows us to go in and have a little bit more of a unique relationship with fans at the local level than a lot of other groups that will just have a global edition that's maybe done in English. And so what we've done is we've presented that capability to F1. We did it back in 2015 and said, hey, listen, we have access to the fans. You want information from the fans. Why don't we put together a global fan survey? We'll build the platform that supports it, and we'll do it in the localized languages of all the different countries that we're in. Let's get a third party to validate it, and we did Nielsen Sports, who certainly is one of the best, and it was very, very successful in 2015. Well, after we had the foundation set and the baseline set, we were able to go back in 2017 with a little bit more of an interaction with F1 in helping us promote the fact that they're doing this, getting some of their other partners involved. And we really had a very, just an unbelievable turnout of fans who wanted to participate in the survey. And obviously, motorsport fans are some of the most passionate fans in the world. They're going to take the time to fill out the survey and have their voices heard, and they did. So the survey itself was over 15 minutes from the time you started to the time you finished, and that in and of itself would be normally a huge barrier of entry, but you're right. We had about 150,000 total analyzed reports that were filled out completely. We had another 50,000 that were almost filled out completely, and I think we hit over 190 countries with that survey. People participated from 190 different countries. So the power to do that and to get those insights and to get that information directly from the fans was, as you can imagine, very, very valuable. And it was valuable for us because we helped create the interaction. It was valuable for F1 because they got the insights. And then they were able to obviously merchandise those insights with their partners and with their stakeholders to really get a good sense of the health of the industry and the health of the sport. And the beauty of it is that 2017 had some really nice, favorable insights as opposed to 2015. So you can actually start to create, that foundational baseline of growth. Okay, here we were in 15. Here's where we are in 17. Here are all the good things that are happening. Here's some things that still need work. Let's get ready for what we're going to do in 2019 as well. So it was a very successful partnership. We're looking to replicate this across other series as well. We already have 2 that have signed up to do something for similar to this in 2018. So we think this could be a really valuable tool for the motorsport industry moving forward.
I mean, what strikes me about this is you cast that net of engagement far and wide, and then it shows how passionate your fans are to actually spend that 15 minutes actually filling in a survey, because I think most of us listening have never filled out a 15-minute survey in their entire life. So to get somebody to do that and in their droves is fantastic. But was there anything in the survey in the results of that survey that took you by surprise?
You know what? I don't think really anything took us by surprise for those that were, sitting on the sidelines, if you will. The Formula One, especially over the last 6 months, as you can imagine, has put a lot of time and effort into creating better, interactions with the fans and really opening up fans and partners' ability to activate across, all the different business lines of F1, especially the race weekend itself. So you got that sense when you looked at the survey results that fans not only appreciated that, but were starting to be, slowly impacted by that as well. So there was a lot more, and then for the racing action itself, as you can imagine, a big section of the survey was about the racing action itself. And I think a couple of years ago there was a majority, well, not a majority, but I would say a nice sizable group that were not necessarily pleased with the racing that they were seeing, on the circuits, and that has certainly turned a corner when you take a look at the 2017 results. So, yeah, so they've posted a lot of these results. A lot of these results are online right now. If for those that are listening that have interest, you can see some of the results that have been published, and it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to see the sport heading in that direction. It's a good feeling to see that the new ownership of F1 are trying to make a difference, and I think people that we've talked to, fans, stakeholders, and the like, do feel very positive about the direction that things are heading in right now.
Now, motorsport.tv already reaches 31 million homes in 42 different countries throughout Europe via cable and satellite, and showcases more than 125 different motor racing championships. But viewing habits are changing, and cable cutters are turning their back on those expensive cable packages in favour of the likes of Apple TV, Hulu and YouTube. I mean, how are you addressing that change in viewing habits and where users expect what they want across a plethora of devices to hand, really, isn't it?
Yes, well, there's no question the world is changing when it comes to how fans are consuming content. If you haven't noticed that, then you certainly haven't been paying attention. And anybody who's in the media space right now is doing everything they can to understand the impact that this is going to have today on their business, but also over the next 3 to 5 years. We try not to even look past 3 years anymore. I mean, three years used to be the old 5-year business plan. Really, a year and a half now to us is the 5-year business plan, because the world is changing so quickly and so rapidly. But for us, to your point, Motorsport Network owns a TV network called Motorsport TV, based out of France, and it powers about 30 plus million homes, primarily across Europe, and we're continuing to expand our reach of that network. But at the same time, we also know that many people are, I wouldn't say they're abandoning their television set, and certainly when you talk about racing and sporting events, having that big screen TV experience is always going to be paramount to everything else. But you now have multiple different scenarios where people want access to content and access to live events, no matter where they are and obviously what device they're on. So we have pivoted a little bit and have just launched a very soft launch in beta right now, motorsport.tv, which is our direct-to-consumer opportunity that anybody can sign up for, and for a low monthly fee, get access to all the content that we would normally be showing on Motorsport TV, as well as all the different content that we're creating, behind the scenes, whether it's shoulder programming or access to other types of magazine-style shows that we're creating. But as you can imagine, the technical capabilities that one needs to not only power a television network, but then power a direct-to-consumer experience across all those devices you mentioned, is very significant. So, we have always been a technology company, but every quarter that goes by, we become more of a technology company, because you have to have the resources, the infrastructure, and the technical expertise to support such a massive global offering. So we're excited about that potential. It's a big part of our future growth plan, and we're very bullish on where we think we can take that.
So what kind of challenges and opportunities are you facing and embracing the rapidly changing digital marketplace to secure essentially that future expansion?
If the world would stop changing so quickly and give everybody, in the world of sports and media and digital media a break, that would be nice, but I don't think that's going to happen. But, the technical challenges are certainly there. And every time a new device comes out, every time a new distribution partnership opens up, you want to make sure that you've got the technical capabilities to embrace that change in the marketplace. But, we still look at ourselves primarily as a global digital media operation. That's our bread and butter. Obviously, we're covering motorsports at its core, but we have a big automotive presence and automotive enthusiast presence. So, the challenges that we face today aren't really that different from the challenges that we faced last year or really even the year before that. Yes, things are certainly changing quickly and rapidly, but we feel pretty well positioned. We've been on a very aggressive growth path over the last 2.5 years, and every time we pick up a new acquisition, we're really looking at that acquisition to make sure that it can help us from a technology perspective. It can help us from a distribution perspective. We certainly don't want to acquire a company that is going to, have old legacy technology that we have to, spend a lot of time trying to upgrade or update. So it's a big part of what we're doing moving forward, is making sure that these new acquisitions and anything new that we are in the process of building or launching, or a company that we're partnering with, certainly can help us in that area, because there are lots of challenges, as you can imagine, with everything changing so quickly.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of talk this year about the digital transformation of almost everything. So when approaching the digitisation of F1, providing rich content to your already engaged fans, how do you also approach how to grow and engage new digital audiences in both existing and new regions of the world? It's quite a challenge, I would imagine.
It is. And, luckily for us, we're firmly embedded in a lot of areas across the globe, especially emerging territories, and obviously some more established territories that are already very much integrated with F1 and the F1 experience when F1 comes to their town. But I think our broader challenge is, we have a very significant print business today with Autosport magazine and F1 Racing F1 Racing is the only officially licensed print publication currently in the world. So we want to make sure that we continue to keep that business alive and growing in a very difficult environment. And there's no secret that the print is becoming a tougher and tougher business to generate, significant amounts of revenue on compared to where that business might have been, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So the good news is by having those print publications, we have incredible editors, we have incredible art directors and designers. We're creating this content every day. Now our challenge is essentially how do we transform that from not only a print environment, but back into a digital environment, because obviously having a nice big F1 racing magazine that you can touch and feel and have a different type of experience with, transferring that over to your mobile phone, it may not be as impactful, especially when you look at the storytelling and the imagery and so on and so forth. So the more content we have, the more time we spend on making sure that it is appropriately formatted and delivered to the fans the way that they are requesting it. And I think our biggest challenge, which is also an opportunity, is we have a lot of fans that are asking for that content in a variety of different ways, whether it's on television, whether it's on their phone, whether it's via the magazine. But a great example of that is, we do have a subscription product called the Autosport Plus, which is, our deeper exclusive content offering in digital, and that gives fans access for a monthly fee to content that really isn't available anywhere else through some of the best writers on the planet that are following F1. So we're going to continue to replicate models like that because we do have a nice audience that is interested in getting access to that content, and they're willing to pay for that great content. But it's just a matter of us collectively looking out over all of our different businesses, seeing all the different content opportunities, and then ultimately packaging it and delivering it in the most appropriate way for the fans as they're asking for it.
You make it sound so easy.
Yeah, simple.
Now, I recently spoke to Real Madrid Football Club and how they became the first sporting brand to reach 100 million likes on Facebook. And then I also look and see things like the NFL, who've recently gone through a digital redesign a few years ago too. Yeah. I mean, are you finding that the entire sporting industry is taking digital incredibly serious now? And also the power of social influencers from their own sporting stars as well?
Oh, no question. In fact, motorsports, I would argue, is probably one of the late arrivers, if not the latest arrivers, to the party. One of the reasons why we feel we're uniquely positioned and have a significant opportunity to grow is because, quite frankly, motorsports was just a little late in embracing, the digital transformation that was happening across all of sports and live events and entertainment options. So there's no question that every team, every league, every owner is looking into how do I create more engagement opportunities through the digital landscape with our fans? How do I continue to, embrace technology to make their live event experience better or their at-home viewing experience better with complementary products? There's just no question. In fact, there's armies of people now that are just specifically focused on digital and social fan engagement. When I was at NASCAR, we built up an entire team from scratch. We had about 3 people when we started, and by the time I left, we had close to 100. And they were completely focused on building out the best digital properties we could, creating the most social awareness that we could create, measuring the impact that all of these different channels and opportunities have on the business and on the fans. And that is happening, I guarantee you, across, like I said, every league, every series, every team. Everybody is trying to figure this out. And it's difficult because, it changes so quickly. Fans' habits can change very quickly, and you can't just sit in your chair and pout about it because things are changing. You've gotta get the business aligned and ready to try to serve those needs, and it can be very time consuming. It can be very expensive, but the payoff at the end of the day to create that direct connection with these fans is worth all the time and the resources that you have to put against it.
You're so right there, and I think you do have to watch everything so closely and know when to pivot and when to change. But I think I read recently that you noticed a movement to aggregate technology and content onto a single platform to address that consumer pain around the time and effort required to go between sources all the time. I mean, do you think that removing any friction points and making things as simple as possible is really the secret source of any digital strategy?
Yes, removing any barrier of entry, especially when you're asking for a consumer of yours, to dig into their pocketbook and present you with their hard-earned money. You have to make it frictionless. You have to make it as easy as possible. And today, it's even doubly challenging because not only is the expectation it is going to be painless for them, but not only is it going to be painless, but it's going to be personalized and it's going to be optimized for them, because you can't give them something that is only available to them on a certain platform or a certain device, if you will. So there's no question removing any barrier of entry is going to benefit the end user experience. That's an obvious statement, but there's so many little things inside that process as well that you have to keep an eye on, because any pain point that you cause in this day and age, I mean, when you can pull out your phone and order almost anything that you can even imagine on the internet these days, and there's some companies that are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to, make that process as smooth and as painless as possible, and being able to check out, on any device with any payment platform. I mean, this is just the norm these days. Yeah. This is standard. These are table stakes. So when you transfer someone from that experience, let's say it's an Amazon type of experience, so you can only imagine how much money they're putting against that customer, checkout experience, and then you create something similar. Their expectation is the same. They don't care if you're Motorsport Network or Amazon or eBay. It doesn't matter. They want that same really, really smooth transaction. And if you don't provide that to them, maybe you get one more shot to get it right, but if you don't find that sweet spot for them, you're going to lose them. They're going to stick around maybe through the transaction, but you might not get them back. Or if you make it difficult every month, they're certainly going to drop out of that process. So absolutely figuring that out is super, super important for any type of transactional business these days.
So I've got to ask, what's next for the Motorsport Network? I mean, what can F1 fans expect, and how will the service continue to evolve over not the next 3 years, or maybe the next year and a half, because we can't look any further beyond that, really?
Well, I tell you what, we have been on a pretty massive global expansion these days, and we've acquired 29 companies in the last 2.5 years. And we are going to continue to identify opportunities that fit nicely into our current existing portfolio of brands. But we're also looking to open up some new areas that we aren't currently in today. So maybe something around esports, for instance. So we will continue to identify all opportunities in the motorsports and automotive space to continue to grow the platform that we currently have today. But at the end of the day, we want is simple. We just want to dominate, the global motorsports marketplace. It can't be that hard, right?
You would think so. But you made a great point a few moments ago there about everybody's experience now, because really you could get a date on Tinder, an Uber ride to a restaurant, and have a table that you've booked on Open Table, or from your phone, or within 2 or 3 swipes. Like you say, that's people's expectation now, and they carry that with them everywhere. Well, before I let you go, can I just ask you to point the listeners in the direction of the website and the best way where they can reach out to you guys?
Yes, motorsportnetwork.com. And then if you're on one of our other platforms like motorsport.com, which probably most people listening are more familiar with, there's a couple different ways that you can interact with us directly from the website. We love hearing from the fans. We love hearing about new ideas, opportunities. So please reach out to us there.
I always say at the end of every show that technology works best when it brings people together. But what I love about what you guys have done is you've used technology to bring your passionate fans together, so then you can enhance the experience for them, which is incredibly forward thinking. I think a lot of people could learn a lot from that. So a big thank you for coming on today.
Well, thank you very much for having me. We're big fans, and we're also big fans of motorsport, as you can tell, and I appreciate you having me on, and I'd love to answer any questions from you or the fans later on, so just let me know.
There are so many great takeaways from this conversation and how forward-thinking motorsport.com are. I mean, monitoring closely all the trends within their industry is paying dividends, and their results prove that they're moving in the right direction. For example, their monthly page views are now reaching 172 million across the network. And Colin also told me off air that one of their strengths is their global nature of their business, because they now cover 81 countries in 17 different languages with the best CS motorsport journalist talent across the globe. It's an amazing story, and great to see a huge network such as this meaningfully engaging with their passionate fans. And for me at least, this is how it should be done. But as always, remember, please get in touch and let me know your thoughts about today's episode and everything that we've talked about.
Neil would love to get your voice heard on the Tech Blog Writer podcast. Do you have a question that you would like Neil to read out on the show? Simply record an audio message on your phone using an app like iMessenger or WhatsApp, and just send it over to techblogwriter@outlook.com.
So a big thank you to Colin Smith for coming on today and sharing how everybody in his organisation has a true passion for sport, and how they love showcasing that passion for their audience that they show for their sport. But that's it for today's show, so a big thank you for listening today. I hope you come back and join me again in the next episode, but until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.